The Vazari Empire's first detailed scan of Earth came on what humans would later call the Day of Glass, when every digital screen on the planet simultaneously displayed the same image for precisely 3 seconds. Most humans dismissed it as a global glitch, a curiosity for conspiracy theorists. None suspected it was the opening move in a game of galactic manipulation. High Admiral Ixion of the Vazari Empire stood on the bridge of the Celestial Architect, his iridescent scales reflecting the soft purple light of the command center. His 6-fingered hand traced the holographic representation of Earth floating before him. Such a peculiar species, he mused, watching the endless streams of data flowing from their surveillance probes. They fight amongst themselves constantly, yet they've avoided nuclear annihilation. They're technologically primitive, yet they've begun reaching for the stars. Most intriguing. High Admiral, his second-in-command, Commander Villara, approached with a data crystal. The psychological analysis is complete. These humans, they're perfect. Perfect wasn't a word the Vazari used lightly. Their empire had spent millennia searching for a species that could serve as their military force against the expanding Nexus Confederation. They needed warriors who could think creatively, adapt quickly, and most importantly, be manipulated into fighting a war that wasn't their own. "Show me," Ixion commanded, his secondary eyes focusing on the new data stream while his primary pair remained fixed on Earth. The analysis was remarkable. Humans possessed an almost paradoxical psychology. They were simultaneously tribal yet capable of unifying against external threats. They could be fiercely aggressive, but also deeply empathetic. Most importantly, they had an unprecedented capacity for adaptation and technological integration. Their response to the screen test exceeded all projections. Villara continued. Within hours, they had developed 17 different theories about its cause. Within days, they had created new detection systems to prevent it from happening again. Their problem-solving capabilities are extraordinary. Ixion's scales shifted to a deep blue of satisfaction. Then we proceed with Operation Crucible. Prepare the Harbinger. A Harbinger was the Vazari's masterpiece of psychological warfare. A massive ship designed to appear as threatening as possible while being completely automated. It would be humanity's first official contact with alien life, and it would change Earth forever. 3 months later, the Harbinger appeared in Earth's orbit. Its arrival was deliberately dramatic, a massive black vessel that seemed to drink in light itself, positioning itself directly over the United Nations headquarters in New York. The message it broadcast was simple. You have been chosen. Prepare for ascension. Exactly 6 hours later, it opened fire on carefully selected targets around the globe. The attacks were precisely calculated, devastating enough to demonstrate overwhelming technological superiority, but limited enough to avoid causing civilization-ending damage. Military bases, satellite installations, and defense infrastructure were the primary targets. As humanity reeled from the attack, the Vazari made their entrance. The Celestial Architect and its fleet appeared in a brilliant display of light, engaging the Harbinger in what appeared to be an epic battle above Earth's atmosphere. The Harbinger was destroyed in a spectacular fashion, raining harmless but impressive-looking debris across the planet's oceans. High Admiral Ixion's message to Earth was equally calculated. People of Earth, we deeply regret we could not arrive sooner. The vessel we destroyed was a scout for the Nexus Confederation, an aggressive empire that seeks to enslave developing civilizations. We are the Vazari, and we offer you protection and partnership. Together, we can ensure your species' survival and advancement among the stars. The response was exactly as predicted. Earth's governments, faced with irrefutable evidence of hostile alien life and an apparent savior, united with unprecedented speed. The Vazari's offer of advanced technology and military training was accepted with minimal resistance. Within months, the first human military units were being equipped with Vazari technology and prepared for what they believed would be a defensive war against the Nexus Confederation. But in a quiet chamber aboard the Celestial Architect, Ixion and Velara watched their plan unfold with cold satisfaction. They're adapting to our technology faster than expected, Velara noted, reviewing the training data. The human designated as Captain Sarah Martinez has already improved the efficiency of our basic plasma rifle by 23%. Excellent. Ixion's scales rippled with pleasure. They're everything we hoped for. Their innovative drive, combined with their belief that they're fighting for their survival, they'll be the perfect weapon against the Confederation. And they suspect nothing of our true intentions. Why would they? We've given them exactly what their psychology demands: a clear enemy, advanced technology, and a noble cause. By the time they realize they're not fighting for their own survival, but for our expansion, they'll be too deeply integrated into our military structure to resist. What neither Ixion nor Velara could know was that at that very moment, in a secure facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Captain Sarah Martinez was examining microscopic imperfections in Vazari technology that shouldn't exist in a civilization as advanced as they claim to be. Her report, which would take months to compile and verify, would begin with a simple observation. The Vazari's technology appears to be deliberately limited in specific ways that suggest they're not showing us their true capabilities. The question is, why? The seeds of humanity's eventual liberation were already being sown, even as the Vazari celebrated the success of their deception. The empire that had spent millennia perfecting the art of manipulation was about to learn a harsh lesson about the species they thought they had perfectly understood. Humans don't just adapt to survive. They adapt to thrive. And they're at their most dangerous when they think they're being played for fools. Captain Sarah Martinez stood in the observation deck of the Vazari training facility, Starbridge Alpha, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath her. 6 months had passed since humanity's introduction to galactic society, and the changes had been staggering. The facility, a massive space station in Earth's orbit, now housed thousands of human soldiers and scientists, all working to master alien technology they barely understood. Or at least, that's what the Vazari believed. Sarah's fingers traced the familiar outline of her data tablet, where her growing collection of inconsistencies was encrypted beneath layers of human-designed security protocols. The Vazari had been thorough in their deception, but they'd made one critical mistake. They'd assumed humans would be too grateful for advanced technology to question its origins. Captain, Dr. James Chen's voice interrupted her thoughts. The quantum physicist had been one of her first recruits into what they privately called Project Oversight. You need to see this. In a secure lab designated for human technological integration studies, James pulled up a holographic display of Vazari weapon schematics. Look at the power distribution network, he said, highlighting specific pathways in the design. It's deliberately inefficient. There are redundancies that serve no purpose except to limit the weapon's capability. Sarah nodded, adding the observation to her growing list. Just like the communication arrays and the shield generators, they're giving us advanced technology, but it's all hobbled, James finished. Like giving a child a bike with training wheels. The question is, why pretend to be less advanced than they are? Because they're not preparing us to fight a war, Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. They're preparing us to be weapons, and you don't give weapons full autonomy. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Lieutenant Maya Patel, their combat systems specialist. Her dark eyes were bright with excitement or concern. In their line of work, the two often looked the same. We cracked it, Maya announced, securing the door behind her. The Vazari neural interface systems. They're not just for weapon control. They're collecting data. Everything. Combat responses, decision-making patterns, emotional states. They're studying us while we train. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. The neural interfaces were supposedly necessary to operate advanced Vazari weapon systems. Every human soldier wore one during training, interfacing directly with alien technology. They'd just discovered they were wearing sophisticated monitoring devices. But here's the interesting part, Maya continued. pulling up her own data. The monitoring system. It's based on outdated human neural mapping technology. They're using our own research against us, but they're using versions that are decades old, almost as if they've been watching us for a long time. Sarah finished, long before the Harbinger attack. The implications were staggering. The Vazari hadn't just appeared at Earth's moment of crisis. They'd engineered it. The question was, how many other species had they done this to? Over the next few weeks, their investigation expanded carefully. Dr. Aidan O'Connor, their xenolinguistics expert, discovered patterns in Vazari training materials that suggested they were simplified versions of more complex protocols. Commander David Santos found that the Vazari's tactical training scenarios always ended just short of revealing their full strategic capabilities. But it was Dr. Chen's discovery that finally gave them the proof they needed. Hidden in the quantum signature of Vazari technology was evidence of temporal manipulation. They weren't just technologically superior. They had mastery over time itself. The technology they were sharing with humanity was millennia behind their actual capabilities. They're playing a long game, Sarah told her inner circle during a secure meeting. The Nexus Confederation they claim to be protecting us from. I don't think they exist. Not yet. I think the Vazari are building an army to fight a war that hasn't started. But why us? Maya asked. Why Earth? Because we're perfect, James said, understanding dawning in his eyes. We're innovative, adaptable, and we have a history of warfare. But more importantly, we're isolated. No galactic allies. No understanding of our place in the cosmos. We're the perfect blank slate. Sarah stood, looking at her team. The Vazari think they're manipulating us into becoming their perfect weapon. But they've made a crucial mistake. They're teaching us just enough about their technology to be useful, but not enough to be a threat. They don't realize that humans don't need to fully understand something to improve upon it. She pulled up her own data, showing the modifications her team had been making to Vazari technology. Improvements that looked like simple efficiency tweaks, but were actually fundamental redesigns. The Vazari had given humanity training wheels, not realizing that humans had been secretly building rockets. We keep playing along, she commanded. We stay grateful, we stay eager to learn. But we prepare. They think they're teaching us to fight their war. We'll teach them why you never give humans a weapon unless you're absolutely sure of their loyalty. As her team dispersed, Sarah returned to the observation deck. Earth still spun below, beautiful and seemingly peaceful. The Vazari thought they were the masters of manipulation, playing a game centuries in the making. But they were about to learn that humans had their own talent for deception and their own plans for the future. In his quarters aboard the Celestial Architect, High Admiral Ixin reviewed the latest progress reports with satisfaction. Human integration was proceeding faster than expected. Their combat effectiveness was impressive, their technological adaptation remarkable. Everything was going according to plan. He never noticed that the reports he was reading had been subtly altered, hiding the true extent of human progress. The Vazari had created the perfect weapon, but they'd forgotten one crucial detail. The most dangerous weapon is the one that learns to think for itself. The underground facility beneath Lake Baikal hummed with activity. What the Vazari believed to be a simple training center was actually humanity's most advanced research facility, where the best minds on Earth worked to unlock the true potential of alien technology. Captain Sarah Martinez stood before a holographic display showing the latest breakthrough. A modification to Vazari quantum communications that even their creators hadn't imagined possible. It's beautiful, Dr. Chen said, manipulating the hologram with practiced ease. The Vazari designed their quantum network to be one-directional, from their command centers to their subordinate forces. They never considered that the quantum entanglement could be reversed. Sarah watched as the simulation showed their modified communication system in action. And they can't detect it. That's the genius of it. Maya chimed in from her workstation. We're using their own security protocols against them. Every time they check the network, they see exactly what they expect to see. obedient humans using their communications exactly as instructed. The achievement was just one of many. In the 8 months since discovering the Vazari's deception, humanity had made extraordinary progress. The neural interfaces meant to monitor them had been subtly reprogrammed to feed false data. The inefficient weapon systems had been quietly optimized, their artificial limitations removed. But most importantly, they had discovered something the Vazari had tried desperately to hide: the true nature of their temporal technology. "Show her," James said to Dr. Yuki Tanaka, their temporal physics expert. The quiet Japanese scientist pulled up another hologram, this one showing the complex mathematics of time manipulation. "The Vazari aren't just advanced," Yuki explained, her eyes bright with excitement. "They're time travelers. Not in the dramatic sense of changing history, but in subtle ways. They use temporal manipulation to perfect their strategies, to ensure their plans unfold exactly as intended. That's how they've maintained their empire for so long. And now we can detect it," Sarah said, understanding the implications. "We can see when they're manipulating time." "Better than that," Yuki smiled. "We can counter it. The quantum communication breakthrough isn't just for secret messages. It's the foundation for a temporal shielding system. They won't be able to use their greatest advantage against us." Sarah looked around the room at her team. The best humanity had to offer, all working in secret to prepare for a confrontation that would determine Earth's future. The Vazari had wanted weapons. They'd created revolutionaries instead. In orbit above Mars, another piece of humanity's preparation was taking shape. Commander David Santos supervised the construction of what the Vazari believed to be training outposts. In reality, they were automated defense platforms, disguised to look like standard Vazari technology, but harboring human innovations that would prove devastating in the coming conflict. "The latest test results are promising," David reported via their secure quantum channel. "The hybrid drives are performing beyond expectations. We've managed to combine Vazari temporal technology with human ingenuity in ways they never considered." "The Vazari think linearly," Dr. Chen added. "They see technology as a progression, each advancement building on the last in a predictable way. We think laterally. We combine, adapt, repurpose. It's why they've never caught on to what we're really doing with their gifts." The scope of humanity's secret preparations was staggering. Hidden factories on Earth's moon produced modified weapons and ships. Underwater bases tested new defensive systems. Even the civilian sector had been quietly mobilized, with key industries retooled to support what was coming. But the most ambitious project was taking shape in the asteroid belt. Project Phoenix, as they called it, was humanity's ultimate insurance policy. A fleet of ships combining the best of human and Vazari technology, hidden in plain sight among the countless rocks and debris. "The latest simulation results are in," Maya reported, bringing up the combat projections. "Even accounting for the Vazari's temporal advantages, we have a 72% chance of success if we stick to the plan." Sarah studied the numbers carefully. "And the civilian casualties?" "Minimal," James assured her. "The evacuation protocols are in place. The moment we begin, our people will be moved to secure locations. The Vazari won't have time to use them as leverage." The plan was elegant in its simplicity. The Vazari had spent centuries perfecting their method of uplifting and controlling species. They expected resistance, rebellion, even the occasional technological breakthrough. What they didn't expect was a species that could turn their own temporal technology against them, neutralizing their greatest advantage while appearing to be the perfect, obedient soldiers they desired. "Time for the next phase," Sarah announced. "Send word to our allies." This was perhaps their greatest achievement. The secret network of other species who had been subjugated by the Vazari. Through their modified quantum network, humans had made contact with dozens of civilizations, all waiting for the chance to break free. The Vazari's own empire would become their undoing. High Admiral Ixion, reviewing the latest progress reports from Earth, felt a surge of satisfaction. The humans were exceeding all expectations, their combat effectiveness growing exponentially. Soon, they would be ready for their true purpose, the war that would secure Vazari dominance across time itself. In his arrogance, he never questioned why human performance metrics were so perfectly optimal, never wondered why their technological integration was so smooth. The Vazari had spent centuries perfecting the art of control, but they had never encountered a species that could turn that very control into a weapon. As Sarah looked at the final preparations, she thought about the irony of it all. The Vazari had wanted to create the perfect weapon. In their own way, they had succeeded. They just didn't realize that weapon would ultimately be aimed at them. "Send the signal," she commanded. "It's time for the Empire to learn why you should never teach humans to fight unless you're absolutely certain of their cause." Across the solar system, hidden preparations shifted into their final phase. The day of revelation was approaching, and with it, a reminder that the most dangerous weapon isn't the one with the most power. It's the one that thinks for itself. The day humanity showed its true hand began like any other aboard the Vazari flagship Celestial Architect. High Admiral Ixion was reviewing the latest combat readiness reports when the first anomaly appeared. A minor fluctuation in the quantum network, barely noticeable among the constant stream of data. By the time he realized its significance, it was already too late. Captain Sarah Martinez stood on the bridge of the Phoenix-class vessel Prometheus, humanity's first true warship, hidden in plain sight during its construction. Disguised as a series of routine training exercises, it represented everything the Vazari had failed to understand about human nature. "All stations report ready," Commander Santos announced, his voice steady despite the historical weight of the moment. "The quantum shield is active. They can't see what we're really doing." Sarah nodded, watching as the holographic display showed hundreds of green dots lighting up across the solar system. Human vessels and installations revealing their true nature. The Vazari had taught humanity well, perhaps too well, about the importance of synchronized attacks. "Send the message," she ordered. Throughout the Vazari fleet, on every screen and communication device, a simple message appeared: "Class is in session." The first phase of the attack targeted the Vazari's temporal manipulation systems, the hybrid technology humans had developed, a combination of reversed-engineered Vazari tech and innovative human design, created localized time bubbles that trapped Vazari ships in microsecond loops. Their ability to manipulate time, their greatest advantage, was suddenly useless. Multiple temporal anomalies detected. A Vazari officer reported frantically to Ixion. "Our chronometric engines they're being contained somehow. Impossible." Ixion's scales shifted to the deep red of alarm as he watched his fleet's capabilities disappear one by one. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were systematically dismantling every advantage the Vazari had carefully built over centuries. The second phase revealed the true extent of humanity's preparation. What the Vazari had thought were standard training outposts around Mars transformed into heavily armed defense platforms. The lunar bases they'd dismissed as primitive human attempts at colonization unveiled advanced weapon systems that shouldn't have been possible with the technology they'd been given. How? Ixion demanded as reports of failures cascaded across his command center. How did they advance so far beyond the limitations we put in place? The answer came in the form of Dr. Chen's voice, broadcasting across all frequencies. "You taught us to think inside your box, so we built a better box." Across the solar system, other subjugated species began their own rebellions, coordinated through the quantum network humans had redesigned. The Vazari's carefully constructed empire began to crumble as centuries of oppression erupted into synchronized resistance. "Your mistake," Sarah's voice joined the broadcast, "was thinking that humans would be satisfied with the tools you gave us. We don't just use technology. We transform it. We don't just learn. We innovate. And we don't just fight. We win." The Prometheus moved with impossible grace, its hybrid drives combining human intuition with Vazari precision. The ship's weapons were neither purely human nor Vazari, but something new, something that represented the best of both, improved upon by human ingenuity. Secondary targets confirmed. Maya reported from her tactical station. Their command and control systems are isolated. They can't coordinate their defense. The Vazari fleet, for the first time in centuries, found themselves outmaneuvered and outgunned. Their supposedly perfect understanding of human psychology had led them to create the very force that would destroy them. You wanted weapons, Sarah transmitted to Ixion's flagship. You got them. But you forgot the most important rule of warfare. Never give your enemy the tools to destroy you unless you're absolutely certain of their loyalty. The battle for Earth's solar system lasted less than 6 hours. The Vazari's temporal advantage was neutralized, their superior technology matched by human innovations, and their tactical doctrine turned against them by the very soldiers they had trained. In his final moments aboard the Celestial Architect, as human-modified weapons tore through his supposedly impenetrable shields, High Admiral Ixion finally understood the fatal flaw in their perfect plan. They had sought to create weapons, but they had instead created rivals. They had tried to control humanity's development, but they had only spurred its innovation. The Prometheus approached the crippled flagship, leading a fleet that represented humanity's true potential, not as servants or soldiers, but as equals among the stars. Surrender, Sarah offered, and learn what humans can really teach you about warfare, innovation, and freedom. As the Vazari fleet lowered their weapons, a new chapter in galactic history began. The empire that had sought to create the perfect weapon had instead created something far more powerful, a species that refused to be weaponized, that took what they were given and made it their own, that fought not for conquest, but for freedom. The message sent to Vazari High Command was simple but profound. Thank you for the education. Now it's our turn to teach. The war wasn't over. The Vazari Empire was vast, and change wouldn't come easily. But as Sarah looked out at the liberated fleet, at the allies they'd made among other subjugated species, she knew that humanity had proven something extraordinary. When pushed to adapt, humans don't just survive. They revolutionize. When forced to fight, they don't just resist. They transform the very nature of the battle. The Vazari had wanted soldiers. They got liberators instead. 5 years after the Battle of Earth, the Galactic Concordat held its first official assembly in the orbital station New Dawn. Captain, now Admiral, Sarah Martinez stood before representatives of 37 species, each formerly under Vazari control, now united in a coalition that would reshape the galaxy. The chamber itself was a testament to human innovation, combining architectural styles from dozens of worlds with technology that represented the best of what each species had to offer. The station's quantum core pulsed with energy, powered by the same hybrid systems that had helped humanity break free from Vazari control. The age of empire is over, Sarah declared to the assembled delegates. The future belongs to all of us, working together, each contributing our unique strengths to build something greater than any single species could achieve alone. Dr. James Chen, now head of the Concordat Science Division, stood at a nearby console, monitoring the quantum network that connected their growing alliance. What had started as a tool for rebellion had evolved into the backbone of a new interstellar civilization, one built on cooperation rather than conquest. The latest reports from the former Vazari colonies are encouraging, he announced. The transition teams have successfully integrated our hybrid technology with their existing infrastructure. Productivity is up 300%, and quality of life indicators show significant improvement across all sectors. The Vazari themselves had not disappeared entirely. After their defeat at Earth, their empire had fractured into competing factions. Some had accepted the new reality and joined the Concordat, bringing with them centuries of knowledge that, when combined with human innovation, led to unprecedented advances. Others had retreated to the outer regions, clinging to their old ways, but no longer powerful enough to threaten the growing alliance. Maya Patel, commanding her own ship now, appeared via hologram from the edge of known space. "The exploration initiative is proceeding ahead of schedule," she reported. "The modified temporal sensors are opening up entire regions of space we never knew existed. But more importantly, we're finding more civilizations out there, some hidden by the Vazari, others naturally developing. And this time, we're approaching them the right way." That was perhaps humanity's greatest victory, not the defeat of an empire, but the creation of something new. Where the Vazari had sought to control and exploit, the Concordat offered partnership and mutual growth. Each new species they encountered brought unique perspectives and abilities to their expanding coalition. In the research centers scattered across Earth and its colonies, human and alien scientists worked side by side, combining their knowledge in ways that pushed the boundaries of what was possible. The temporal technology that had once been the Vazari's greatest weapon was now being used to heal temporal damage they had caused during their reign, restoring worlds and civilizations that had been trapped in time loops or paradoxes. Commander David Santos, leading one of these restoration projects, had summed it up perfectly. "The Vazari taught us how to fight. We taught ourselves how to build. Now we're teaching others how to thrive." The changes weren't limited to technology. Cultural exchange programs flourished, creating a renaissance of art, music, and literature that combined styles and perspectives from across the galaxy. Earth had become a hub of innovation and creativity, where ideas from 1,000 worlds merged and evolved into something entirely new. "We've received another application for membership," Dr. Yuki Tanaka announced, bringing up the details of a newly discovered civilization. "They've already begun implementing some of our shared technology protocols. Their adaptation rate is remarkable." Sarah smiled, remembering how humanity had once been in a similar position, but facing very different teachers. "Send the welcome package. Make sure they understand. We're not here to rule them or use them. We're here to grow together." The quantum display showed the ever-expanding network of worlds and species working together. Where the Vazari had sought to create perfect weapons, humanity had created perfect partners. Each species brought its own strengths, its own perspectives, its own innovations to their shared future. In a secure chamber deep within New Dawn, a small team monitored the temporal barriers they had established around the known galaxy. The Vazari's manipulation of time had left scars in the fabric of space-time itself, wounds that would take centuries to heal. But they were healing thanks to the combined efforts of dozens of species working together. "Admiral," a young ensign called out, "we're detecting unusual temporal signatures from the outer rim. Pattern suggests Vazari activity." Sarah nodded, unsurprised. The remnants of the Empire were still out there, still believing in their superiority. But they no longer inspired fear. "Alert the defense fleet, but don't worry too much. They're learning the same lesson we taught their leaders. The galaxy is changing. They can either change with it or be left behind." As she looked out at the bustling activity of New Dawn, Sarah reflected on how far they had come. The Vazari had wanted to create the perfect weapon, but they had instead catalyzed the perfect revolution, not just in technology or warfare, but in how species could work together, grow together, and build a future that none of them could have achieved alone. The stars stretched out before them, infinite in their possibility. Humanity had not only survived their trial by fire, they had transformed it into a forge for something greater. The weapons had become builders, the soldiers had become teachers, and the galaxy was better for it. In the end, the greatest victory wasn't defeating an empire. It was proving that cooperation would always be stronger than control, that innovation would always overcome limitation, and that the future belonged not to those who sought to dominate, but to those who chose to work together. The legacy of humanity's resistance wasn't written in the weapons they created or the battles they won, but in the alliances they built and the future they helped forge. A future where no species would ever again face the stars alone.